In the tapestry of American history where myths are woven into the very fabric of national memory, there are names that ring like church bells. Paul Revere, the man immortalized for his midnight ride. But hidden beneath that legend is the story of someone even younger, braver, and far less remembered. A story so astonishing it almost defies belief. The story of a teenager named Sybil Ludington, who at only 16 years old rode twice as far as Paul Revere, through the darkness of a stormy night to awaken an entire militia and save her people. Yet while Revere's name found its way into poetry and textbooks, Sybil's courage was all but forgotten, a casualty of history's blindness. And it is here where our story begins. In April of 1777, when the American Revolution was still a fragile dream, when towns and villages were caught in the crossfire between a desperate rebellion and the might of the British Empire, when courage was demanded not from the strong and famous but from ordinary souls thrust into extraordinary circumstances, and on the night of April 26th word reached the home of Colonel Henry Ludington in Putnam County, New York, that British troops numbering some 2,000 were advancing on the nearby town of Danbury, Connecticut, intent on burning supplies critical to the Continental Army, and the danger was immediate. The militia was scattered across miles of countryside. Their leader, Colonel Ludington, was at home, and time was slipping away like sand through glass, and it was in that moment, as panic threatened to paralyze the community, that a teenage girl stepped forward. Not a soldier, not a man of experience, but Sybil, the colonel's daughter, who volunteered to do the unthinkable, to ride through the night across 40 miles of rough and perilous roads, more than twice the distance covered by Paul Revere, to warn the sleeping farmers and scattered militia that the enemy was coming, and without hesitation she mounted her horse, her heart pounding but her resolve like iron, and into the darkness she plunged alone, unarmed, with only the fire of duty to light her path. The storm breaking around her, rain soaking her clothes, shadows stretching like ghosts across the wilderness, dogs barking as she thundered past farms, men jolted awake by the sound of hooves, doors flung open to find a teenage girl shouting that the British were burning Danbury, calling them to arms, urging them to grab their muskets and follow. And mile after mile she rode, not stopping, not faltering, through forests thick with danger, past loyalist territory where capture meant death, over creeks swollen with rain, across ground where even grown men hesitated to travel at night. And yet she pressed on, her courage carrying her faster than fear, her horse lathered in sweat, her voice hoarse from shouting, until dozens, then hundreds of militiamen roused themselves, rallying to the cause. And by dawn she had returned home, exhausted but triumphant, having covered 40 miles in a single night, rallying nearly 400 troops to march toward Danbury. And though the British succeeded in burning the town, the militia she summoned struck them on their retreat at Ridgefield, turning what might have been a crushing loss into a moral victory. And Sybil's ride became one of the great hidden moments of the Revolution, a tale of a girl whose bravery equaled, even surpassed, that of men twice her age, and yet where history immortalized Paul Revere in Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's famous poem. Sybil Ludington's name faded into obscurity, her ride remembered only by her family and a few scattered records, until much later, generations began to uncover her legacy. And that is the tragedy and triumph of her story, that the world overlooked her, not because her courage was smaller, but because her gender and age made her invisible to the storytellers of her time. And yet today, when we search for heroes who defy expectations, who prove that greatness does not ask permission, her ride shines like a beacon. For she was 16 years old, in an era when women were denied voice and power, and yet she carried the weight of freedom across her shoulders in the dead of night, proving that courage is not bound by age or gender but by spirit. And the climax of her journey was not just the 40 miles she rode, but the message her ride carried, that the revolution itself was not the work of a few famous men, but of countless unnamed, unseen, unsung individuals whose sacrifices carved the path toward independence. And in Sybil's pounding hooves and the echo of her cry through the darkened hills, we hear the truth. That history is often blind, that legends are sometimes misplaced, but that courage always leaves an imprint, whether celebrated or forgotten. And so, as the years rolled on and monuments were built, Sybil Ludington remained largely in the shadows, though a statue now stands in Carmel, New York, honoring her ride. And her story reminds us that the revolution was never the work of one man alone, that Paul Revere's midnight ride, as iconic as it is, was only a fragment of a larger untold epic. And within that epic, a teenage girl carved her name with the iron of her will and the thunder of her horse. As hooves, and as we remember her now, centuries later, her story surges forward like the very ride she made, unrelenting, unstoppable, undeniable. Because when history falters, truth must rise. And the truth is that on a stormy night in 1777, it was not only Paul Revere who rode to awaken a nation. It was a girl, just 16, who rode farther, harder, braver. And though the world forgot her, her ride remains etched in the soul of freedom. And her name, Sybil Ludington, deserves to be spoken not in whispers but in thunder, alongside the greatest heroes of the Revolution, for she was the teen who rode further than Paul Revere, and her courage still gallops across the pages of time, daring us to remember, daring us to honor, daring us to ride with her through the storm once more.